The void between the stars was vast, indifferent, and unending. Yet nothing in the galaxy could prepare the fleet for the singular silence that radiated from the hidden planet below. From orbital distance, it appeared to be a tranquil world, verdant continents wrapped in slow-moving clouds, oceans reflecting faint sunlight, rivers twisting like silver threads across unbroken wilderness. No visible signs of technology, no glowing cities, no megastructures transmitting their existence across the void. Yet the sensors whispered. Electromagnetic echoes drifted faintly through the upper atmosphere, so subtle that a casual glance would dismiss them as cosmic noise. Thermal scans revealed structured, localized heat signatures buried beneath centuries of biological overgrowth. The energy patterns were deliberate, calculated, intelligent. The alien narrator, who had been trained to recognize every form of advanced civilization in the known galaxy, felt a strange sensation. It was not fear in the conventional sense. It was something deeper. Recognition, dread, a creeping awareness that the planet had not been lost. It had been hidden. And now it was waiting. The fleet deployed dozens of reconnaissance drones. Each one descended slowly, their wings folding silently against the atmosphere, engines humming below human perception thresholds. As they pierced the thick forest canopies, the drones revealed fragmented cities swallowed by centuries of uncontrolled vegetation. Towering skyscrapers were visible only through gaps in the canopy, their glass facades shattered or overgrown with creeping vines. Roads and transit systems had long since disappeared under moss and root, yet their precise layout suggested meticulous engineering at some distant time. Beneath the surface, however, the real civilization pulsed like a hidden heartbeat. Subterranean networks stretched across continents. Thermally mapped tunnels led to massive underground chambers, industrial hubs, and vast population shelters. Energy grids blinked in patterned intervals. Artificial intelligence cores remained in low power cycles, interfaces flashing faintly as if in slumber. The planet itself seemed alive, not in the organic sense, but in the coordinated, deliberate awareness of a species that had survived in silence for centuries. The alien narrator noted patterns that were impossible to ignore. The thermal pulses beneath the surface had a rhythm, almost ceremonial, like soldiers maintaining their breath in preparation for a signal they had waited decades to receive. The fleet commander ordered silent observation. There was no visual confirmation of human life on the surface, yet the infrastructure radiated intelligence, patience, and lethal potential. Then it happened. One of the hidden planetary beacons ignited. Slow, deliberate, intentional. A signal designed not to invite contact, but to declare presence. The alien AI struggled to decrypt the ancient human language embedded in the transmission. The impact of those words rippled through the fleet. For the first time, the aliens felt something akin to fear. Not fear of attack, but fear of what lay beneath, of a civilization that had endured silently, learning, preparing, and watching the galaxy as it ignored them. Every analysis protocol, every prediction model failed to account for the precision, patience, and adaptability encoded into human society. The drones descended further, scanning ruins swallowed by centuries of overgrowth. Once thriving cities revealed layers of human ingenuity buried beneath the forest. Stone towers embedded with energy conduits, transport hubs converted into subterranean facilities, and what appeared to be military storage vaults were hidden kilometers beneath the surface, shielded from all conventional scans. The infrastructure had been designed for concealment, continuity, and ultimate survival. Each discovery added to the sense of dread. Weapon storage facilities bristled with technology unknown to the aliens. Emergency population shelters capable of sustaining millions for decades lay dormant. AI cores, perhaps capable of independent decision-making, remained powered just enough to monitor their environment. Humans were not extinct. They were preparing, waiting, watching. The alien narrator realized the terrifying truth. Humanity had been lost only in perception. They had deliberately hidden from the galaxy, concealing their existence with precision and patience beyond imagination. Extinction had never truly reached them. The human species had engineered its survival to withstand every imaginable catastrophe. The planet's heartbeat, the rhythmic thermal pulses, the careful sequencing of dormant machinery, the faint flicker of energy grids spoke of centuries of preparation.
Humans had survived an ancient catastrophe, rebuilt in secrecy, and prepared for a universe that would inevitably attempt to erase them again. And now, after centuries of waiting, humanity had decided that the time of silent observation was over. For the aliens, the words carried the weight of inevitability. The fleet had stumbled upon a civilization that had learned patience, endurance, and silence at a level that transcended ordinary comprehension. They had survived by hiding, they had endured by learning, and now they were awake. Far beneath forests grown over ruined cities, human systems began performing diagnostic cycles, testing readiness, and awaiting the next phase. The planet was alive, not with biological life alone, but with the presence of a species that had mastered the art of survival, and the alien narrator, observing every detail, understood the chilling truth. This world was not just hidden, it was prepared, waiting, patiently, lethally, and inevitably. The alien scanners traced the subterranean labyrinths that stretched beneath forests, mountains, and oceans.
The longer the fleet observed, the more the narrator understood. Humanity had not merely survived, it had redefined survival as an art form. Every habitat, every underground city, every industrial hub was a node in a distributed organism of strategic resilience. Surface ruins suggested habitation long abandoned, yet beneath them lay intricate networks of tunnels, training chambers, research laboratories, and factories operating in perfect synchronization. The alien narrator compared the human system to nothing known in the galaxy. These were not cities, they were survival engines, each colony a multifunctional organism, each structure an adaptation of millennia of learning to live and fight under the shadow of extinction. Children were observed entering training complexes that defied traditional anthropological models. These were not schools, they were conditioning centers. Physical endurance was nurtured through climbing, running, and exposure to controlled environmental hazards. Cognitive acuity was honed by simulated crises, artificial predator encounters, and tactical exercises that forced coordination under stress. Humans were taught to embrace danger as a tool rather than a threat, to normalize fear so that in moments of true peril they would remain focused, adaptable, and lethal. Genetic data recovered from deep archives revealed humanity's subtle biological adaptation strategies. Environmental pressures, selective survival reinforcement, and physiological acceleration had produced a species optimized for resilience. Humans did not rely on technology alone. They had become living machines of endurance, capable of recovering from injuries, stress, and trauma faster than any other known organism. Then the orbital satellites awoken. Hundreds of hidden platforms rotated in silent coordination. Weapon apertures aligned toward the alien fleet. No energy charge was detected, no attack sequence initiated. The words carried the weight of centuries of preparation. Humans were not signaling aggression, they were declaring that they would defend their existence at any cost, that their hidden colonies were alive, awake, and coordinated across multiple environments. The fleet's AI analyzed the orbital network. Subsurface factories were already assembling drones and warships. Massive asteroid mining bases converted raw materials into armored hulls, while energy cores calibrated themselves for long-term endurance. The alien narrator noted the frightening efficiency of human logistics. Production cycles were adaptive, self-correcting, and designed to respond instantaneously to external threats. The narrator's neural nets registered the psychological implications. Humans were not preparing for conquest, they were preparing for the defense of survival itself. Each colony operated independently, yet every node synchronized through hidden networks that spanned the planet, achieving a balance between redundancy and efficiency that no alien fleet had previously encountered. Deep within the planet, dormant weapons platforms performed pre-launch diagnostics. Energy pulses traced precise vectors across buried corridors. Human AI cores calculated strategy based on centuries of simulations. Every possible scenario had been accounted for. Every contingency had been planned. Every threat had been anticipated. The alien commander ordered continued observation. Extinction was not a possibility here. Humanity had already anticipated that scenario and built survival into every aspect of their society. And yet, for all their technological sophistication, the planet felt alive in a way that machines alone could not account for. Every pulse, every hum of energy, every synchronized movement suggested a consciousness that transcended individual humans. The narrator realized that the colony itself was a single organism, each human, each machine, and each structure a vital organ in a planetary scale intelligence designed to endure, adapt, and survive. For the first time, the alien fleet understood that they were observing not merely a civilization, but a species that had redefined existence itself. Humanity did not hide from war. They had hidden their strength, perfected it, and waited. And now, after centuries of waiting, that strength was awakening. The Alien Council debated endlessly. Diplomatic engagement was risky.
Observation was safe, but curiosity, mixed with fear and fascination, overcame caution. A single communication drone was dispatched, programmed with the full spectrum of interspecies protocols and predictive analytics. The drone descended through forests and mountain ranges, following the faint energy pulses of human colonies. Cavern systems revealed engineering marvels buried beneath kilometers of rock. The structures were massive, organically integrated with geological formations, and entirely concealed from orbital sensors until precise scanning was applied. Inside a vast underground chamber, the drone finally encountered human representatives. They did not wear ceremonial garments. Their clothing was functional, armored, patched from centuries of wear, and optimized for environmental adaptation. They did not approach aggressively. They waited. The human leader, ancient yet commanding, activated the translator interface. His voice was calm, deep, resonant with centuries of memory. "We survived because we endured. We scattered among the stars after the first attempt to end us. This colony is only one of many." The narrator recorded rising neural stress among the alien council. The language suggested trauma embedded in culture, strategic memory passed across generations. Humans had never forgotten their enemies. They had simply waited. Silence followed. No response. The drone returned to orbit.
Yet human defense systems activated in response. Subterranean engines hummed. War machines moved into position. Energy grids shifted to active readiness. The war was not declared. It was meticulously prepared. The alien narrator understood with growing dread. Humanity was no longer a civilization to observe. It was a predator, patient, precise, and lethal in its waiting. The alien research fleet descended into the forbidden biological archives hidden inside the human colony network. These archives were older than most recorded interstellar civilizations. What they revealed was not history. It was survival engineering. Humanity had not simply evolved. Humanity had been forged inside planetary environments classified as biological chaos zones. The narrator preferred another description: natural training grounds for persistent life forms. Earth-like planets were not peaceful nurseries where intelligent life blossomed under gentle sunlight. They were arenas where existence itself was challenged by atmosphere, predators, climate instability, resource competition, and ecological violence. Human ancestors had lived under skies where storms could last seasons, where oceans moved with destructive intelligence, where predators evolved faster cognitive reflexes than early human tribes. And humanity survived. Not by becoming stronger individually, but by becoming adaptable collectively. The alien anthropological analysts studied human childhood development records. What they found terrified them. Human children were not isolated from controlled danger. They were introduced to risk learning environments, climbing dangerous terrain, running endurance trials, participating in competitive physical simulations, engaging in social games that secretly trained tactical awareness. Human society had normalized confrontation with fear because humanity believed fear was not an enemy. Fear was information. The alien narrator recorded a psychological pattern unique to humans. When threatened, most intelligent species exhibited one of three responses: fight, freeze, or flee. Humans demonstrated a fourth behavior: organize, coordinate, transform panic energy into structured survival response. Human crisis networks activated like living neurosystems. Transportation infrastructure synchronized automatically, medical units prepared emergency corridors, military and civilian sectors merged communication channels. This was not artificial intelligence dominance. It was population-level cognitive cooperation. The narrator named this phenomenon collective predator survival cognition because humans behaved like a hunting organism that did not rely on individual strength. Instead, every member of the species contributed to survival probability. Genetic archives revealed another terrifying truth. Human evolution was subtly accelerated across generations. Environmental pressure selection favored individuals capable of recovering faster from trauma. Biological systems showed adaptive inflammation control mechanisms. Pain response thresholds were modulated by survival necessity rather than random mutation. Human bodies were not becoming stronger through artificial enhancement alone. They were becoming endurance-optimized organisms. Recovery speed was more important than initial damage resistance. The alien medical researchers analyzed human cellular repair cycles. Tissue regeneration markers showed unusually efficient repair sequencing.
Neurological networks demonstrated resilience against shock-stress fragmentation. Even psychological trauma recovery patterns were accelerated compared to galactic biological averages. Humanity was engineering itself into persistence existence, not immortality, persistence. Because humans did not believe survival meant living forever. They believed survival meant continuing forward despite destruction. Then the orbital construction platforms activated. Asteroid mining colonies transformed raw material into warship structures. Human ships were not launched in traditional spaceports. They were grown. Inside vacuum fabrication chambers, structural frames assembled themselves through controlled molecular deposition systems. Engine cores activated only after hull integrity completed. Human war technology followed biological construction philosophy. Ship first, mind later. Weapon systems were designed for environmental unpredictability rather than specialized enemy species targeting. Human fleets began forming defensive spatial geometry across star corridors, not attacking, containing. The Alien Council debated interpretation models. Some analysts believed humanity was preparing offensive expansion. Others believed humanity was preparing eternal defense doctrine. The narrator reached a horrifying conclusion. Humanity was not building weapons to start war. Humanity was building survival ecosystems inside war technology. Because humans believed extinction was not defeated by killing enemies. Extinction was defeated by ensuring future generations could continue living. And far beneath planetary forests, human machines entered diagnostic awakening cycles, testing weapon readiness, simulating enemy return probabilities, counting silent breaths inside underground bunkers, waiting, patiently, like soldiers sleeping inside mountain stone armor, listening for footsteps of something that once tried to erase them from history. The galaxy had learned something new that day. Humanity was not dangerous because it sought war. Humanity was dangerous because it refused to disappear. Space itself seemed to hold its breath. Deep field sensors, normally attuned to gravitational anomalies and cosmic radiation, detected something unusual, an approaching distortion wave moving faster than natural stellar phenomena, yet slower than conventional hyperdrives. The alien fleet immediately classified it. An unknown war species was advancing toward the sector.
The data suggested hundreds of massive vessels organized with efficiency and aggression. The narrator's perception shifted. Patterns in human behavior, previously observed as patient and measured, suddenly made horrifying sense. Humanity had been waiting, not just for the alien observers, but for this, the signal that would finally test everything they had built, trained, and preserved across centuries. Across multiple star regions, hidden human colonies simultaneously activated. Cryogenic military fleets, suspended in orbit for decades, powered up with perfect synchronization. Life support systems reactivated, neurolinks reestablished, shipboard AI integrated historical simulations into real-time operational awareness. On the surface, civilian populations withdrew into underground networks. Transport corridors designed for rapid mass evacuation shifted millions of humans into secure bunkers and reinforced city cores. Not a single casualty occurred. The timing, movement, and coordination were flawless. Every human operation, every withdrawal, every fleet alignment had been pre-programmed for this exact scenario. The alien observers watched with growing dread. It was no longer possible to regard humanity as merely hidden. They were a species prepared for galactic war, and the preparation had been executed flawlessly. Every archival simulation, every survival exercise, every genetic adaptation, and every tactical doctrine was now being tested in real space. Then the human leader transmitted the final warning. Across open channels, the translation modules processed the simple yet profound message: if you leave now, history repeats. The approaching species did not respond. Communications jammed or ignored, they continued their advance. But human fleets had already positioned themselves with predictive precision. Every maneuver was calculated not for destruction, but for survival, containment, isolation, disruption of enemy coordination. Human drones launched from hidden carriers, carrying vast data cores. These were not conventional munitions. They contained historical archives, civilizations that had fallen, worlds that had been erased, species that had vanished. Every broadcast was a lesson, every data packet a psychological weapon.
The invaders began to hesitate, their neural communication networks overrun with memories of past extinctions. Political factions emerged within their fleets. Strategic coherence began to crumble. The narrator recorded the terrifying truth. Humanity did not need to engage in direct combat to dominate outcomes. They weaponized memory, they weaponized history, they weaponized the lessons of species long gone. And still, the human fleets waited, not for victory, but for survival. Each ship, each drone, each tactical formation was designed to outlast, outthink, and outadapt. The Alien Council began recalculating every known model of galactic warfare. It was irrelevant.
Humans were not constrained by conventional strategies. Every loss in simulation, every defeat in past engagement had been absorbed and transformed into an adaptive advantage. Humanity's endurance was now infinite in practical terms. Their capacity to survive and learn outpaced the enemy's ability to conquer. From the narrator's perspective, the horror was clear. The approaching war species had unknowingly entered a system where survival itself had been elevated to an art form. Every action by humans was deliberate, every sequence optimized over centuries of hidden observation and preparation. Humanity was no longer hidden. They were awake, they were patient, and they were ready. The stars themselves seemed to tremble as human fleets assumed their positions, energy matrices humming silently, weapon systems in standby, boarding teams prepared for infiltration, and the coordinated pulse of civilizations long hidden now synchronized across interstellar distances. The narrator concluded with a note of dread. The signal had not called humanity to war, they had called the universe to witness their survival. And in that moment, across the emptiness of deep space, the galaxy understood something terrifying. Humanity had not been hiding from conflict, they had been hiding their strength. And now, for the first time in eons, it would be revealed. The human fleets did not move like conquerors, they moved like hunters who had studied prey behavior for centuries. The alien narrator observed the shift in warfare philosophy with growing existential dread. Human doctrine did not prioritize destruction, it prioritized structural survival. This was a civilization that had decided long ago that killing enemies was secondary to ensuring its own continuity. Human drones launched first. They carried archives, not weapons. Archives of civilizations that had once thrived under distant suns before vanishing beneath invasion, environmental collapse, or internal collapse caused by fractured unity. These archives were broadcast across enemy communication bands. The invading species initially interpreted the signals as propaganda. They were wrong. The human broadcasts were not political messaging. They were historical mirrors. Every fallen civilization was replayed inside enemy neural communication systems. The narrator studied the psychological effects. The invaders began experiencing cognitive instability. Military councils formed arguments. Strategic leadership notes lost synchronization. Factions appeared within enemy fleets. The humans had weaponized collective memory. Because humanity understood something terrifying about intelligent civilizations. Civilizations die not only from external destruction, they die when they forget what destruction looks like. Human broadcasts told stories. Stories of species who trusted broken treaties. Stories of children who watched oceans evaporate under alien atmospheric conversion systems. Stories of civilizations that believed technological superiority guaranteed survival. The invading warriors felt emotional responses they had never experienced before. Fear without physical source. Anxiety without visible threat. The human doctrine was simple. Destroy enemy certainty, not enemy bodies. Boarding operations began next. Human assault teams crossed enemy hull breaches using adaptive environmental armor. They did not scream war chants. They communicated through tactical neural networks. Commands were calm, professional, almost clinical. Human soldiers moved through enemy ships like predators that understood prey psychology. They avoided unnecessary destruction. Structural control was priority. Enemy combatants were not exterminated indiscriminately. Instead, human teams targeted communication relays, leadership systems, and decision processing centers. Because humanity believed war was not won by killing soldiers. War was won by collapsing command architecture. The alien narrator recorded unprecedented tactical behavior. Humans were treating war as a biological system, not mechanical. Biological.
like dismantling a living organism by isolating neural pathways rather than destroying entire body structures. Meanwhile, human drone networks continued broadcasting extinction archives. The stories were carefully selected. Each civilization represented a different failure pathway. Some collapsed from ecological imbalance, some from political fragmentation, some from overconfidence in military superiority. The message was not hatred. It was warning. Survival requires memory. The invading species began internal political collapse. Leadership councils argued about whether humanity represented existential threat or long-term strategic partner species. Military factions demanded continued assault. Civilian leadership nodes advocated retreat. Human psychological warfare had fractured enemy unity. The narrator realized something horrifying. Humanity had transformed warfare into evolutionary cognition combat. They were fighting future probability outcomes rather than present battlefield conditions. Human strategy was not focused on winning battles. It was focused on removing extinction potential. Humanity did not seek absolute destruction. They sought stability of survival. Human boarding teams continued operations deep inside enemy vessels. They disabled propulsion sabotage systems, reconfigured escape trajectories, left evacuation corridors functional, because humanity believed survival should remain possible, even for enemies. This philosophy confused the invading warriors. They expected annihilation. They received controlled containment. Enemy fleets began showing psychological exhaustion patterns. Their combat coordination decreased over time, not because of casualties, but because resistance felt infinite. Human endurance doctrine operated under one assumption: as long as humanity exists, survival struggle continues.
The narrator compared human behavior to geological formations. Strikes against humans did not break them, they reshaped them, like mountains absorbing erosion without collapsing. Human adaptive AI war cores replayed every defeat scenario humanity had ever experienced, learning, optimizing, evolving. Failure was treated as information, not shame, not destruction, but education. Inside enemy fleets, soldiers began hearing archived voices, stories of extinct civilizations, children laughing in worlds that no longer existed, oceans singing under forgotten suns. The psychological pressure became unbearable for some combat units. The invading species had never encountered warfare that targeted memory and meaning rather than physical structure. Humanity was teaching the galaxy a new rule. War ends not when armies fall. War ends when survival learns history. Across space, human soldiers advanced silently, professional, calm, unbreakable, because they were not fighting to dominate. They were fighting to ensure their species would never again hide in darkness while extinction waited outside the door. And far across hidden human colonies, children continued walking under artificial sunlight domes, learning, playing, living, because humanity had decided something that would echo across galaxies forever. No child would grow up believing that survival required silence. The war spread like a cosmic storm that refused to settle. Across multiple star systems, battle lines dissolved into shifting zones of control rather than fixed frontiers. Human fleets did not fight for territory, they fought for continuity. The alien narrator observed something deeply disturbing about human combat behavior. Every engagement was treated as a learning event. Human adaptive AI networks absorbed battlefield outcomes in real time. Destroyed vessels were not considered losses. They were data nodes contributing to future survival probability modeling. The invading species initially believed humanity was losing, because human ships were fewer in number, because human weapons did not always deliver catastrophic destruction, because human tactical formations sometimes withdrew. But the Alien Council soon realized the terrifying truth. Human resistance was not measured by immediate firepower. It was measured by persistence gradient over time. Humanity fought like geological pressure acting on enemy civilization. Slow, continuous, unavoidable. Superweapon platforms hidden inside planetary moons activated. These were not weapons of annihilation. They were disruption engines. Energy pulses emitted from lunar cores destabilized enemy fleet formation synchronization.
Communication links between invading ships began experiencing temporal latency. Strategic orders reached subordinate vessels too late. Enemy fleets lost coordinated movement capability. The invading species was technologically advanced, but their civilization was built on centralized command logic.
Humanity had studied this weakness for centuries. Human warfare doctrine targeted decision architecture rather than physical ships. The narrator watched human boarding teams move through captured enemy vessels. They were calm, professional, almost surgical in behavior. Their objective was structural control, not emotional victory, not revenge. Inside enemy ships, human soldiers dismantled command AI nodes, preserved life support corridors, allowed enemy crew evacuation pathways. Because humanity did not want war to become extinction ritual. Humanity wanted war to remain survival mechanism. Meanwhile, across multiple star systems, human colony worlds revealed hidden defensive platforms. Asteroids that appeared natural were actually military fabrication shells. Moons that seemed biologically dormant were energy storage megastructures. Human civilization had hidden war infrastructure inside celestial bodies themselves. The narrator calculated construction timelines. Some platforms were older than known galactic empires. Humanity had prepared across centuries, maybe longer. The invading species began retreat protocols, not because they were destroyed, but because human resistance felt infinite. Every tactical breakthrough was countered. Every fleet advance met containment response. Human adaptive strategy operated faster than enemy prediction models. The alien scientists attempted to simulate human behavior. Results were terrifyingly unstable because human strategy was not purely logical. It was survival optimized under uncertainty. Human commanders did not seek perfect victory. They sought survival continuity. The narrator recorded battlefield psychology patterns. Human soldiers showed low panic index, high cooperative response frequency, fast decision stabilization under stress. Humans behaved like distributed biological intelligence rather than traditional military hierarchy. The invading species leadership council fractured internally. Political factions formed arguments. Some advocated complete retreat, others demanded continued assault. Communication delays caused strategic chaos. Human psychological broadcast networks intensified Extinction Archive transmissions. The memories of fallen civilizations were replayed repeatedly. Enemy soldiers began questioning purpose of war. Some combat units experienced existential distress because they saw civilizations that trusted conquest strategies and still vanished. The human war doctrine was simple but terrifying. Destroy enemy confidence in eternal victory, not enemy physical existence. The narrator realized humanity was fighting future probability war, not present battle war. Humanity was preventing extinction recurrence. Then came the turning moment. The invading species attempted a massive, coordinated offensive across 3 star corridors. Hundreds of capital-class warships advanced simultaneously. Energy cannons charged. Fleet formation geometry optimized for shock penetration. Human response was not panic. Human fleets reorganized into defensive containment lattice structure. Orbital superweapon platforms activated sequentially, not simultaneously. Sequential firing created gravitational disruption corridors. Enemy fleet motion became unpredictable. Command synchronization collapsed. Invading species realized they were fighting a civilization that could manipulate battle outcome timing itself. Humanity controlled tempo of war, not just firepower. Tempo. The psychological effect was devastating because war against humans was not a battle of strength, it was a battle against endurance, and humanity had centuries of endurance doctrine. The invading species finally began full-scale retreat across multiple sectors, not because they were defeated, but because continuing war against humanity offered no strategic victory pathway. The narrator recorded one haunting observation. Human fleets did not chase. Humanity allowed retreat, because survival philosophy did not require total annihilation. Human civilization had achieved something historically unprecedented, a war that ended without extinction, without planetary destruction, without galactic genocide. Across hidden human colony worlds, surface structures opened for sunlight exposure. Children walked outside underground shelters. First time in generations. The galaxy had learned something new. Humanity was not dangerous because it sought war. Humanity was dangerous because could survive war indefinitely. The war ended without the scream of collapsing civilizations. There were no planetary annihilations, no extinction cascades across star systems,
no burning worlds reduced to cosmic silence. Instead, the universe experienced something unfamiliar: peace that was not imposed, peace that was chosen. Human fleets ceased forward movement simultaneously across multiple sectors. The alien narrator observed the event with scientific fascination and existential confusion, because in recorded galactic history, civilizations that gained strategic advantage always pursued total victory. Humanity did not. Human boarding teams withdrew from captured enemy vessels. Weapon platforms powered down gradually. Energy cores entered controlled sleep cycles. No celebration broadcasts were emitted across human networks. No victory declarations. Human civilization did not believe war should become spectacle. Humanity believed survival was sacred process. Across star regions, human colonies began reopening diplomatic communication channels. Civilian transportation routes were reactivated. Trade signals replaced military frequencies. Human surface cities, long hidden beneath planetary crust layers, slowly emerged into sunlight regions. Artificial sky domes opened. Forests planted centuries earlier were allowed to grow freely. Children walked outside for the first time under open atmospheric environments. The narrator recorded biological and emotional signals from human populations.
Human society showed no mass triumphalism. Instead, there was quiet relief. A civilization that had spent centuries waiting no longer needed to hide. The human leader transmitted the final declaration across galactic communication networks. The message was translated into every known interstellar language. It contained only simple truth. The Alien Council analyzed the message repeatedly. Some interpreted it as diplomatic philosophy, others saw it as survival doctrine. But the narrator understood something deeper. Humanity was not declaring dominance. Humanity was declaring existential independence. Human civilization had built war technology not to conquer galaxy systems, but to guarantee that no future civilization could erase them again. Humanity had transformed fear into endurance infrastructure. The galaxy would remember humans differently from all other species, not as conquerors, not as destroyers, not as empire builders, but as something more terrifying to strategic mathematicians, a civilization that could survive indefinitely under pressure. The Alien Historical Archives later classified humanity under a new biological civilization category: persistent survival species. Not immortal, persistent. Because humanity did not believe existence required eternity, they believed existence required continuation. Across hidden human worlds, children learned history of extinct civilizations, not to teach hatred, but to teach memory, so future generations would recognize danger before extinction approached. The alien narrator concluded the final observational record with solemn analytical precision. Humanity was not dangerous because it built weapons. Humanity was dangerous because it built survival itself into civilization architecture. Humanity had not fought to dominate the stars. They had fought so their children would never again live inside darkness waiting for extinction to return. And somewhere across the silent galaxy, human ships drifted in peaceful orbit, their engines cold, their weapons dormant, their people living, watching the stars without fear. Because humanity had learned the oldest law of existence. Extinction does not end when enemies fall. Extinction ends only when survival is forgotten. And humanity had decided that forgetting would never be allowed again.